What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock, what you should be looking after for the future. I'm also going to do some in-depth technical analysis and give you guys my price prediction for tomorrow based off what the charts are showing and based off what the data is suggesting. Now, before I break anything down about NIO, before I talk about what's going on with the markets and how this could actually affect NIO, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner, so don't take any of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is, any of these 12 free stocks could be a free Tesla share, a free NIO share, or a mix of all of them. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 4 days. Check it out before they run out. With that said out of the way, let's get on with the video. Looking at NIO, this thing just barely tried to end up closing near that $10 range. We ended up seeing a bit of a pullback with the overall market because the market is showing some signs of weakness right now. Now, one of the things I mentioned in my previous video was the fact that if you look at SPY, I was anticipating some chop, but I did see potential for us to push up just a little bit temporarily to that 385 level. We ended up pushing up to about, right here, to about 385 exactly, but we did come lower than I would have anticipated. I thought we would try to hold this 382 zone. We ended up coming as low as 380, and we struggled to actually hold it. I also mentioned to you guys, if SPY breaks below 380, there could be a very bearish signal based off that. And what it basically happened was, as I mentioned, we had lots of big earnings for today. And if I zoom in into Thursday, right here, we had Shopify, we had Apple, and we just had Amazon that came out, and things are not looking that great whatsoever. So first off, for Apple, if Apple was the only one reporting earnings, the market could have actually rallied because they did beat on earnings per share. The revenue was just okay, but overall it was a pretty decent earnings, kind of surprising as well. However, Amazon missed horribly. And Amazon is an absolute giant. They're huge. They could really move the market. And because the miss was so big, this is most likely going to outweigh what happened with Apple. Because Apple wasn't their beat was just slight. It wasn't like that huge, but Apple's misses were massive. And it actually dropped 21% in just one day. This is just the after hours right now. It's down like 18, 19%. This is because the Q4 net sales forecast was a big miss. So looking at how the market performs, you have to remember something. This is the blue line right here is SPY. The white line right here is NIO. You guys could see this very, very significant correlation between them. With the price price ratio coming down, it was just barely starting to bounce. We might see this continue to downtrend because of this particular day. Now, the point I'm trying to make is the fact that NIO does tend to be influenced by the overall market. And if you are seeing factors out there that are likely going to cause the QQQ, the NASDAQ and SPY to come down, and Tesla too, it's likely going to have a negative effect on NIO. At least this is what the historical data tells us. And remember, there's still lots of buy ratings, so NIO is still a very strong from fundamentals. It's just that the market is not moving from a fundamental standpoint. It's just the market is just getting hit because of the economy, because of earnings getting hit by this recession and things like that. So despite NIO being green 53% of the time on Fridays for the year, unfortunately, guys, it doesn't look like this is going to be the case for tomorrow. I'm still very, very cautious. Now, as far as the short interest goes, it is still a little bit higher than these days right here. However, we might see this continue to go up a little bit more because of the fact that there is some potential downside in the markets. And looking at the overall volume, right now is just barely above average, which is kind of okay. But seeing NIO drop on relatively high volume is not the best of things as well. It's something I don't like to see. And the short volume percentage way down here, it's likely going to start trending up a little bit as the shorts may gain a little bit more of an edge on this stock. So for the long term, I'm super bullish on NIO, guys. I really believe in the company. I think they have very strong fundamentals. Their expansions are amazing. But for, the short term, given what's going on in the markets, given a day like this, it seems more likely we're going to see some downside for NIO, unfortunately. Do I think it's going to be a crazy, crazy red day? Not necessarily. I don't think it's going to be like a huge crash, but I do think there might be a little bit more downside to come because Amazon, like I mentioned, if you guys pull up the after hours, this thing is down very, very hard right now. This is a giant. It moves the whole market. This thing closed, all right, when the market closed today, it was at 110. It is currently at, what is this, $91. So this thing was down huge. Big gap down in the market for tomorrow is what's most likely going to come. And seeing this thing down like 18%, that's a massive move. Companies that are small caps tend to move like this, not a multi-trillion-dollar company. So it's going to have a negative effect on the markets. Unfortunately, it's going to cause SPY to come down a bit. SPY is currently at about, let me see, 376 a share. So seeing SPY actually breaking below 380 is a sign of weakness. And overall, it is respecting a distribution schematic formation. So I am anticipating it to actually approach this 376 level, coming down to 375. And if we don't hold 375, then 372 followed by 370 are also on the table. But right now, I'm just going to keep my eyes out for 375. And once again, SPY is likely going to come down. This is likely going to play a big role in Tesla coming down too. Tesla actually showed some relative strength today, but it's actually down to about 220 as of right now. And if we don't hold that, it's very possible for this thing to start coming down to that 215 level. It's very unfortunate, but I still want people to be very prepared for things like this. Now, what else is going to be very interesting would be the NASDAQ and the QQQ. On the QQQ, we do have potential to actually see a retracement. We're currently at about 269, not 269, 267 a share right now. So we could approach this 266 support zone pretty quickly. And if that doesn't hold us, we could end up coming all the way down to this 261 zone if we can't hold this 266 support. So that's another bearish signal from the markets. And because there's so many bearish signals, NIO is likely going to be affected by this. So if you look at NIO, we pushed up. I think we came very close to filling this gap, but we kind of missed it, which is a sign that NIO will come up eventually. But right now, we're just trying to fight and hold this $10 range. Now, we have a gap up here, right about here, which would help NIO go all the way up to about $10.80. I do think NIO will fill this gap in the near term future within a couple of weeks, most likely. But before that, before that ends up happening, does this kind of resemble in Head and Shoulders? It kind of does, this formation right here. It's not perfect, but I could kind of see it. It looks to me like NIO is likely going to get a break below $10. And once we break, if we don't hold 9.9, okay, that's the first zone you have to watch for. 9.9, see if NIO gets a bounce right there. Because there was once a time we actually got a bounce. Really depends on the overall market too. If we don't hold that, it's very likely we're going to come all the way down to about 9.65 right here. And if we don't hold 9.65, well, the first thing is we're already starting this downtrend. We have this Head and Shoulders formation, which is another red flag. And on top of that, there's this big gap right here. See the gap? The gap is at about $9.44. It's very possible for NIO to actually end up filling this gap if we break below 9.64, which I think we most likely will. But in order for us to break below it, we first have to break below 9.91 tomorrow. We have to break and hold that, right? Don't worry too much about the after hours. We need to see this thing break below that for us to get to that zone. So tomorrow, I think what's likely going to happen is we will break below it. We're going to retest 9.64. We're likely going to drop below that and end up filling the gap down here in that 9.46 level. So we could see NIO actually retrace to as low as 9.34 for the day. However, we might actually try to bounce before hitting that supply zone. So we may end up actually hitting the 9.4s for tomorrow. Unfortunately, this is what the chart is basically telling us because it wasn't NIO's fault. It was the overall market that's taking a big hit. And this is what tends to happen during times like these, all right? The market crashed in 2008. I'm sure you guys have heard of that or remember that. And when the market crashed, strong companies with very good fundamentals, they still also saw crashes. They still got hit. And given everything going on in the world, this will affect NIO. I'm not worried though. I'm not necessarily scared because I'm still very bullish for the long term. And I know that eventually NIO is going to get a very big bounce and a big squeeze like reversal when the time is right. It's going to take some time, but I'm still very bullish when it comes to their expansions, their strong fundamentals. And I want to note something else that's overlooked, and that's the customer service of this company. They value their customers, and I really think this will help them for the long term. So I'm still very bullish long term, guys. For the short term, just for tomorrow, maybe the next few days, the market's looking kind of shaky. So please be ready for that. And this will likely cause some downside for NIO. And I want to prepare you guys all for that. Anyways, thank you all for listening. Please remember that the long term future is still very bright. NIO to the moon, the potential is still there. And peace out.